What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Magic the Gathering video. My name is Elite Largo, and today we are going to be taking a first look at the initial spoilers of Zendikar Rising and giving my opinion on it, and just going over some of the cards that interest me, some of the cards that are making a lot of noise, I guess, based off of what I've seen. Apologies, first off, for lack of content recently. I have just been a little overwhelmed with work and personal things going on. Just busy, and it's very rare where I have time to sit down by myself and actually put together a video, and yeah, even more so with streaming. And it's frustrating, it's demoralizing, but you know, it is what it is. So I'm finally getting around to doing some spoiler videos. At least it's the least I can do right now. And you know, obviously content is a little dry right now as far as as far as new Magic the Gathering stuff, as far as like decks and all that stuff. We're all just kind of waiting for the new set to come out. And so mainly, I guess, going forward will be stream highlights, but you know, we'll see. Anyway, first and foremost, the lands, obviously everybody knew these full art lands were going to come back. I do like them. They look really cool. Most of them, I like most of them. Some of them are like, you know, like this one's really cool, I like that. This one's really neat. I like this one. I like this one a lot. I really like this one. Of course, they brought the cups for Island back, and this is pretty neat. A lot of these will probably look amazing in foil, so good stuff there. Now, the main thing they're bringing back, of course, is Kicker in Zendikar, and another thing that they're bringing back are these flip lands. From the way I understand, well, flip lands / flip cards. Now, these aren't necessarily like transform cards. These are like, from what I can understand, you choose which side you want to play, like as you're playing the card. So in paper, my initial reaction to this in paper, now of course everybody is all like, oh, you know, they're gonna have like, you know, the sheet, you know, the thing that, the little check thing or whatever that they did with like Innistrad when they first brought in like the flip cards or whatever. And I'm like, cool, I understand that, that's cool, but in paper it's like, you know, I mean, I guess like if you have like the check sheet and then you just like grab the card off from the side, that's cool. But like, you know, obviously not every single person is going to be using that. Like initially my thought process was, oh, okay, so like if you initially want to play, say, we'll take Valakut Stoneforge as an example. If you want to play this as a spell, but then you're kind of mana screwed, okay, well, do you just like like flip it over in your hand, or do you like say, hey, I'm playing this backwards? I don't know. It's a petty thing to complain about, but I'm not really complaining. I'm just pointing out a fact. It's like, you know, you really do need to have the checklist. You know, it's basically what it's really being driven home, to have like a fluid game and not stopping and saying, hey, I'm not playing this spell, obviously I'm flipping it over so I can play it as a land, you know, whatever. So with that being said, Valakut Stoneforge was one of the first rares that we saw, initial rares, and so 3 mana, put any number of cards from your hand on the bottom of your library, then draw that many cards +1. This is excellent for mono red and red X like cards. Basically just a way to just empty whatever useless cards you have left in your hand and draw that many +1. So if you play this just and then put 1 at the bottom, you draw 2 cards. Especially this being instant speed, it's very, very, very useful for red, especially mono red. Marasa Rootgrazer is another one. 2/3 vigilance, tap, you may put a basic land card from your hand onto the battlefield. Tap, return target basic land you control to its owner's hand. So already you're kind of seeing you're kind of already seeing ramp, again, is getting some more stuff. Now, granted, this is green-white, which kind of is a little different. You don't really see much Bant ramp, but you are seeing a little bit more 4-color, which I've seen a lot more in Arena. So, again, more ramp stuff, which I'm not a fan of, and of course the landfall mechanic, which is going to be very interesting, which brings me to Ruin Crab. A single blue for 0/3, and then the landfall, whenever land enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent mills 3 cards. From what I've seen in this set, they really are pushing this mill thing, and you know, I'm not a fan of mill decks. Essentially, like, ultimately, like, sure, they're a little fun to play, but like, you know, they're fun to play for like 5 minutes. You know what I mean? And playing against, it's absolutely miserable to play against for obvious reasons. I mean, nobody wants to have like the top of their deck milled. You know, it's one of those things where it's one of those games where you're pretty much at the mercy of luck, you know, and chance of what's being milled off the top of your library, and you're essentially like playing a handicapped version of Magic. Now, it was cool when like really the only mill cards were like Millstone, and it was an artifact, and it was a pay ability that you had to use. That was different. Now it's like, you know, especially for a single blue mana, that means you get this out on turn 1. That means you pair this with like Teferi's Tutelage, you pair this with the rogue cards, Merfolk Secret Keeper. I mean, this is gonna, especially like I said, turn 1, and then you just keep going after that. Like, okay, drop an island on turn 2, 3 cards. Merfolk Secret Keeper, 4 cards. It's like, okay, that's 7 cards by turn 2 that you're getting rid of. And then if you go turn 3, Tutelage. So it's like, okay, drop another land, 3 cards. Tutelage, draw a card, discard, mill 2 more cards. You see where I'm going with this? This is going to be, this has the potential to be like really devastating. Now, of course, there are a lot of decks that rely on the graveyard. But still, I mean, you kind of need other stuff to interact with your graveyard. So, I'm not a fan of like hyper mill. You know what I mean? Like the example I just gave, like a perfect scenario, which I'm sure a lot of people playing, like say mono blue, if they were to just go mono blue mill, I can see players aggressively milling to make sure that they get this 1, 2, 3 hit, where they go turn 1 Ruin Crab, turn 2 drop another land, 3 cards milled, Merfolk Secret Keeper, 4 cards milled, turn 3 Tutelage, well, turn 3 land, 3 cards, Tutelage, draw 2 more cards milled, and then it just goes on and on and on from there. Now, I could be blowing this out of proportion, but just like in your head, you're already thinking like, wow, that's like a good chunk of that's almost a quarter of the deck gone by turn 3. So, Blood Chief's Thirst is another interesting card, actually. This one I actually like. It's a sorcery, which is a little so it's not as powerful as Fatal Push, but still, it's like destroy target creature or planeswalker with converted mana cost 2 or less. We all know there, well, so far, I mean, I don't actually know. We've already seen all the planeswalkers, so it's like we know there's no 2 mana planeswalkers, but this makes me think that in the future there's going to be some more 2 mana planeswalkers. But if the spell was kicked, essentially, if you pay 4, you can destroy target creature or planeswalker instead. So, and for a sorcery, I find that very weak. I mean, I get it. They can't have it be a single black and have it be, you know, instant speed, because that's basically Fatal Push. That was like an extremely popular. It was one of the few uncommon cards that I was just absolutely baffled at the price, like the retail price for it. When it was in standard, I was just like, this is insane. Uncommon cards costing this much. But overall, it was a good design, and I understand having it be a sorcery, and being an uncommon, but I don't see it maybe sideboard play, you know, like in like mid-range decks, or maybe even like Esper control decks or something like that. It would be a good switch out for like aggressive aggro decks, because it's great against aggro decks. Anyway, Lotus Cobra, 2 mana landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, add 1 mana of any color. It's a 2/1. Again, this is another card that's been completely, from what I can see, it's got a lot of people excited, but in my opinion, Again, I just see it as ramp getting just stuff rotating out and then more stuff rotating in. It's basically just replacing what's being lost in standard, and it's just going to cause, in my opinion, more problems. And then that leads me to Omnath, Locus of Creation. This card is insane. It's insane. 4 mana, so I get it. Red. Here's the thing with not only like cards like Lotus Cobra, all that stuff, and then like also the flip lands we're going to get to. It's going to be very easy to get this card onto the battlefield, especially with the Tri-lands. Now, sure, Tri-lands come into play tapped, blah 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 blah, but it's a Tri-land. It's 3 different colors, and it's like 3 different colors at will. You know, it's not like you have to pay for like a combination of the colors. It's like tap for, you know, red, green, or white, or yeah, red, green, or white, or blue, green, or red, or whatever. So when Omnath looks condition on the battlefield, draw a card. Good enough. 4/4 for 4, not bad. Draw a card. Landfall. Now this is when things get nuts. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 4 life. If this is the first time this ability has resolved this turn, if it's the second time, you add red, green, white, blue. If it's the third time, Omnath deals 4 damage to each opponent on each planeswalker you don't control. So this card can get out of control really quick. Obviously, hitting it a third time is going to be tough, but I think just the second time alone is going to be enough to cause some real damage. Because, let's see, you play this, it survives, then you say land, maybe cultivate or whatever, and then you play another one, like you get another land onto the battlefield. You know, that's 4, and then 5, 6. That's 6, because you know if you're turn 4 and then turn 5, you have 5 mana. Yeah. Anyway, I'm spending too much time on these individual cards. I want to try and keep this video as short as possible. But Omnath, I think this card can be really, it can get really nuts really quick. And yeah, obviously, we're not going to know exactly how good it is until we see it in play and, you know, four colors. But I don't know. In my opinion, playing 4 colors right now in Standard is not as hard as it used to be. So, Shepherd of Heroes. Okay, so this is where we get the new mechanic. And I'm not a huge fan of the new mechanic, to be honest. I guess I can talk about the new mechanic. I don't really have to talk about like a lot of these like cards here, like Shepherd of Heroes. I mean, I don't think it'll see that much play, but it's called the party mechanic. So your party consists of up to 1 each. Your party consists of up to 1 each of cleric, rogue, warrior, and wizard. So basically, how I see this is like pseudo, like a pseudo Dungeons and Dragons kind of like mechanic. And I don't know, like I don't mind like certain cards like this, like certain new mechanics and stuff that come out, like you know, you see things like when you talk about like mutate and adventure and stuff like that. But I guess what I don't like about this is that they sets like revolve around certain things, like, you know, how Kicker is a thing with, like, you know, back when Invasion Block came out, Kicker was a big thing, and then Dominaria, of course, and then there's, say, gosh, like the Transform cards, you know, in Innistrad. Yeah, I mean, you can go on and on and on with this kind of stuff, but you're going to see in this set that this set, a big portion of this set, is relying heavily on this party stuff. And here's the thing, it's that like the party, it doesn't even really, it's not limited to like, oh, you need to build a deck around this type of mechanic. This is like, oh, you can play virtually any deck because there's so many different combinations. Like you get Angel Cleric, Human Rogue, Human Warrior, Angel Wizard. I mean, there's so many different ways to be able to get this, to get these cards to work in your favor, even if your deck is not centered around that party concept. And I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm not a huge fan of sets that heavily favor a mechanic to the point where you can make like 3 or 4 different combinations of a deck centered around that mechanic that's going to be at the top of the metagame, and everybody else who's not really a fan or don't really want to play around this mechanic are kind of like second tier. You know what I mean? You kind of saw that with Mutate and the companion mechanic when Ikoria first came out. And still, Mutate decks can be can really go toe to toe with a lot of the top tier decks. I've still played against a few of them in standard ranked, and every single time I have, if I don't have an answer for each and every Mutate card that they play right away, even if I'm in the advantage, even if I have the advantage over them within a turn, they could have the advantage back on their side. So, and then Mutate was one, and then Adventures. You know, we all know about Adventures and Teamer Adventures and the Lucky Clover and how insane, you know, that deck can be left unchecked. So I'm not saying that this party thing is going to be a huge impact on standard, but overall I'm just not a, personally, I don't really care for this whole party concept. It would be cool if it was more along the lines of like based on tribal stuff. I would be cool with that, kind of like how the Kithkin was a thing in Lorwyn, was it? So long ago. Or, you know, humans in Ikoria, or knights in Throne of Eldraine. And I know everybody's like, oh, but they've done that over and over and over again. And it's like, well, you know, if it's not broke, don't fix it. You know what I mean? So, I don't know. Maybe I'm just being too picky. That could be just the thing. I'm a simple person. I don't, you know, doesn't take a lot for me to be entertained. And sometimes when things try and go too far and try and push it too much, and they try to do too much to make it as crazy as possible, it's like I kind of just am like, can we just go back to, take me back to Invasion Block. I would love to play standard in Invasion Block again, because that was fun. Anyway, continuing on, trying not to make this too much of a rant. Acquisitions Expert. So here's an example. I think this card was really good, if I can remember. When Acquisitions Expert enters the battlefield, target opponent reveals a number of cards from their hand equal to the number of creatures in your party. You choose one of those cards. That player discards that card. So already, I can see rogues. This is the part I'm kind of okay with. I can see rogues being like a formidable deck. Like rogues can be pretty decent. Anyway, so obviously if you just play this turn 2 and there's no other rogue, wizard, cleric, warrior, you know, out on the battlefield already, they just reveal one card and then they discard it. So it's kind of like a, you know, a dumbed down version of Kitesail Freebooter, just without the flying. So then there's Tazri, Beacon of Unity. So this is where some of the cards we get into are like really powerful for this party concept. So it's 5 mana for 4/6. This spell costs 1 less to cast for each creature in your party. So if you have all 4, she costs 1 white. Then if you pay 2 and then either a blue, a black, or red, or if you pay, you have to pay all 3. I'm sorry, 2 and then, wow. 3, 6, 9, 12. Top 6 cards. Am I reading that correctly? Is it 2? Oh wait, no. I'm sorry. You can either pay 2, 4, 6, or you can pay. All right, now I'm getting lost. I actually have to look at this. All right. Anyway, whatever the cost is. Apologies for that. I've been up since, I don't even know, 5:30, 6. I don't know. It's been a long morning. Anyway, look at the top 6 cards of your library. You may reveal up to 2 Cleric, Rogue, Warrior, Wizard, and/or Ally cards, really, from among them, and put them into your hand, or the rest of the bottom of your library anywhere. So it's pretty cool. This card obviously heavily favored around the whole party concept, and you can see it's like this is one of those things where, you know, they're pushing the party thing. That's fine. That's fine. Like I said, that's fine. People do you play your own decks. That's cool. I'm just personally not interested in it. Spoils of Adventure. This costs 6 for an instant. Spell costs, you know, of course, 1 less for each creature in your party. It could cost 2 mana, and you gain 3 life and draw 3 cards. Pretty powerful. Pretty powerful for 6 mana alone. But this is the thing. This is why I'm like, this is why I'm not a fan of these types of things. So it's like, this card is really cool. You gain 3 life and draw 3 cards, but it's like for 6 mana on its own, it's awful. But if you're playing into the party concept, it's a great card. It's a great card, and it's only good if you play into this party concept. See, I like cards that can either be good with a party concept or be, you know, pretty decent without it. Linvala, Shield of the Seagate, 3 mana, you know, flying at beginning of combat on your turn. If you have a full party, so if you have everything, choose target non-land permanent an opponent controls. Until your next turn, it can't attack or block, and its activated abilities can't be activated. If you sack her, choose Hexproof or Indestructible. Creatures you control gain that ability until end of turn. She's a 3/3. So again, full party concept. This card is great if you play the full party if you play around the full party concept. If not, that's about it. So now we have the new dual lands, and these are flip lands. Let me go ahead and just do this so I don't have to push back. So here you can either, from the way I understand it, you can choose which land you want it to be. Again, this is one of those things where in paper you're hoping for the checklist. I mean, you're going to need, since these are the new dual lands, you're going to need a lot of these checklists because you know, and here's like anyway, I'm sorry. So you're going to need a lot of these checklists because you're going to be playing like 4, and then if you're paying like 2 colors, sure, like you're going to need 8 because you'll need the, or no, 4, because you just need the, like these ones. But if you're paying like 3 or more, it's a lot. But anyway, I'm just like one of those things where this is obviously going to be way more convenient on Arena because, you know, they'll come up and you'll just say, hey, which side would you like to play? And then you pick whatever one. They're cool, though. I'll give it this. It's cool. It's an interesting idea, and I'm not frowning upon it. I think it's really neat to give it a shot. I do think them having like their own names and all that stuff, obviously, like, you know, you can only have 4 in a deck, but it's the new dual land, and it's an interesting idea. It's an interesting idea. There's no like, you know, oh, it's not like some of those other check lands where you have to like reveal like an island or plains or whatever. If you have 2 or less lands, enters the battlefield untapped. Interesting concept. We'll see how it works. Here we go. Another card, another rare, Aura Skyclave Hierophant. 4 mana for a 3/3 lifelink. Whenever Skyclave Hierophant or another cleric you control dies, return her cleric card with lesser converted mana cost from your graveyard to the battlefield. So interesting card, plays around the clerics. So again, this is one of those tribal things which I'm cool with. Like, well, not cool with, but I'm like more interested in. I'm like, oh, okay, so this is cleric, you know. And it's like, you know, obviously it's really centered around the whole cleric thing, a little bit more so than the party, but fits into the party concept. Cliff. Okay, so a lot of these we don't really need to worry about. They're just like, you know, common, uncommon cards. Let's see. Where? Okay, Merfolk, Wind Robber. So single blue for 1/1. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, that player mills a card. It's a rogue. Sack it, draw a card, activate this ability only if an opponent has 8 or more cards in their graveyard. This is a pretty cool concept of the graveyard threshold for a lot of these new cards. Seraph Sand, the Trickster, 5 mana for a 4/4 flash. Everybody knows how I feel about flash if you've watched this channel long enough. 4 mana, return an unblocked attacking road you control to its owner's hand. put Zereth Sand, the trickster from your hand, onto the battlefield tapped and attacking. Yeah, I forgot this ability. I'd read this a while ago and I was like, wow, okay. That's actually it's not a terrible thing, but it's honestly going to give a lot of people pause, like, oh man, do I block this creature or what? Do they have Zereth? Whenever Zereth deals combat damage to a player, you may put target permanent card from that player's graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. And that's the big thing. Permanent. Not creature, not land, a permanent. So this is, like I said, pushing this mill concept. Like, mill decks are going to be a huge thing in this set. I'm telling you right now, where we saw ramp and mutate and all that stuff be running rampant, it's going to be everywhere in this new set, in new standard, in my opinion. I mean, hell, I can see myself even playing it, and I'm not even that big. I'm not even that much of a fan. This is probably my favorite card, Nissa. Everybody has been talking about a Golgari Nissa for a long time. 4 mana for 4 loyalty. Her static ability, which I hate Planeswalkers having static abilities. I think they're a bad idea because it acts as an enchantment and a Planeswalker. So, and it's landfall. Gee, who saw this one coming? Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, put a loyalty counter on Nissa. What the hell? This is basically like Teferi, the core set Teferi, but for green and black. Because where Teferi, you can plus on your turn and your opponent's turn to get double the loyalty counters. Here, it's literally 2 counters on, okay, not on the turn it comes into play, but say this is like later game, like you don't get it on curve. Say it's like 4 mana and then you have 3 mana available, you cultivate, or say whatever, or hell, Fabled Passage. You play like, you have your 4 lands and you play a Fabled Passage, you play Nissa, then you sack the Fabled Passage, bring a basic land into play, or a land into play, boom, you got 5, plus, boom, you got 6, and then you also got a 3/3 elemental creature token with haste and menace until end of turn. And then -5, you may put a creature card with converted mana cost less than or equal to the number of lands you control onto the battlefield from your hand or graveyard with 2 +1/+1 counters on it, and it's a -5 ability. So this card, I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna be playing it. I'm gonna be playing it a lot, playtesting it, playing it a lot. But I think it is extremely powerful, especially for 4 mana, and it'll be interesting to see. So I think this is arguably the best Planeswalker out of the 3. We've already seen. I mean, everybody has already seen these 2. Oh wait, did they move them up, or am I like tripping? I think I'm tripping. Oh, here they are. Jace Mirror Mage, 3 mana, kicker 2. If you pay the kicker, you get a copy of Jace with an additional loyalty, or its starting loyalty is 1. You +1, scry 2, 0, draw a card and reveal it. Remove a number of loyalty counters equal to its mana cost. And then the Nahiri, 4 mana, create a white core warrior creature token. You may attach an equipment card to it. Yeah, we've all seen those. Those were the first 2 leaked. They've been out for a couple weeks. I'm not going to spend too much time on that. Anyway, Spitfire Lagak. 4 mana for a 3/4 landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield, it deals 1 damage to each opponent. Not bad. I don't know how much play that's going to see at all outside of maybe limited, because it's 4 mana. It's a 4 mana card. It's not. I'm not that big into it. Gnarly Colony for 2 mana, 2/2, kicker 3, so you pay 5. If it was kicked, it enters the battlefield with 2 counters on it, and then each creature you control with a counter on +1 counter on it get trample. Might of Marasa is another thing. Plus ability. Let's see. Grotag Bugcatcher. It's a 1/2 trample. When it attacks, it gets +1 for each creature in your party. Excuse me. I'm sorry. Here's the rest of the lands. I'll say this, the artwork on these lands look really cool, and I do like some of them having like you can see here the side by side they have the little person there. Anyway, Zulaport Duelist. It's a 1 blue for a flash. When it enters battlefield, target creature gets -2/-0 until end of turn. And its controller mills 2 cards. Again, the mill aspect is going to be pretty crazy. Tajuru Paragon for 2 mana, 3/2. It is also a cleric, rogue, warrior, and wizard. So it's basically an entire party unto itself. Kicker 3, so if you pay 5. If it was kicked, reveal the top 6 cards of your library. You may put a card that shares a creature type with it from among them into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. This is going to be very strong for the party decks. Kabira Outrider, aka riding a chocobo. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, +1/+1 for each creature in your party when this enters the battlefield, like target creature does. Coveted Prize, 5 mana. Spells cost 1 less to cast for each creature card in your party. Again, this could cost 1 black. Search your library for a card, put it into your hand, and then shuffle your library. If you have a full party, you may cast a spell with converted mana cost 4 or less from your hand without paying its mana cost. Awesome. Just what I was hoping for. More cards that give you an opportunity to cast stuff for free. Again, though, it makes 5 mana. Yeah, I mean, at the most, you'll pay outside of the full cast cost is 4 mana. But and of course, it relies on you having a full party. So relax, everybody. I'm just trying to have some fun with this. I'm not really complaining too much about that. Drano the Last Blood Chief, 5 mana for a Vampire Cleric. Flying 4/4. Whenever attacks, defending player chooses a non-legendary creature card in your graveyard. You return that card to the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it. The creature is a vampire in addition to other types. This card I really like for obvious reasons. Now this one, Confounding Conundrum. This was a card that needed to be printed. It needed to be printed. No questions asked. When Confounding Conundrum enters the battlefield, you draw a card. It's a 2 mana enchantment. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under an opponent's control, if that player had another land enter the battlefield under their control this turn, they return a land they control to its owner's hand. This card needed to be printed. It had to be printed. There was no question about it. And this card is going to be seeing play everywhere. Hell, in best of 1 in blue decks, control decks, I would not be surprised if there was 1 or 2 copies in it because of how much ramp and additional lands being played on in a turn. I'm pretty sure in best of 1. Or you're going to be needing it in your sideboard and be playing Fae of Wishes because you're going to need this stuff. You're going to need access to this card in best of 1, which is why, like, you see these mechanics like landfall and playing additional lands and all that stuff. It's really pushing me to stop playing best of 1 and start playing best of 3 more. The reason why I like playing best of 1 is that you can get through games pretty quick, and you can rank up faster. Best of 3, it just takes time, especially if you're playing a deck that takes time to win. So, Wind Rider Wizard for 3 mana, 2/2 flying. Whenever you cast an sorcery spell or instant sorcery or wizard spell, you may draw a card. If you do, discard a card. So they're trying to even it out across like all of the different tribal types. But again, this could fit into a party deck. Tajuru Blightblade, 1 mana, 1/1 for Death Touch. Not bad. Since we are losing Vampire of the Dire Moon, I believe. But it's a green. This is a green card. So, Cleric of Life's Bond, white and black for a 2/2. Whenever another cleric enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 1 life. Whenever you gain life for the first time each turn, put a +1/+1 counter on Cleric of Life's Bond. Not bad. It's like a combination between a Pride Mate and Impassioned Orator, but centered around clerics. Legion Angel, though. This card is interesting. 4 mana for a 4/3 flyer. When it enters the battlefield, you may reveal a card you own named Legion Angel from outside the game and put it into your hand. So, not bad. Not bad. I think the appropriate number would be to play 3 of these and have 1 in your sideboard that you can grab. Hell, maybe even 2, depending on the type of deck you're running. I don't know. This is another interesting flip card here. So this is a new one that's like either a land or a spell, and I think there's other ones that are either a land or a creature. Palaka Cavern. So these are uncommon tapped lands, but they also have alternate sides. So if you pay 3, target opponent reveals their hand. You choose a card from it with converted mana cost 3 or greater. That player discards that card. Kind of card. In best of 3, I see it maybe as a sideboard because I don't even remember when the last duress was printed, so I don't know. Maybe we're losing duress, which I'm not a fan of. I think duress should be in every format. Tajuru Snarecasters. Okay, that's a 3 reach. Emeria Captain. 4 mana for a 1/1 Flying Vigilance. When it enters the battlefield, it gets a +1/+1 counter on it for each creature card in your party. Again, party concept. Taunting Arbor Mage for 3 mana. If you pay an additional 3 for the kicker, it's 6. If it was kicked, all creatures able to block target creature this turn do so. Archpriest of Iona for a white mana. You get a *2, so its power is equal to the number of creatures in your party, so it could be a 4/2. Beginning of combat on your turn, if you have a full party, target creature gets +1/+1 against flying until end of turn. Again, party concept. Akum Hellhound. A red for a 0/1 landfall. Whenever your land enters the battlefield under your control, it gets +2/+2 until end of turn, so it becomes a 2/3. Not awful. I don't think it'll see too much play outside of limited. I'm trying to like these when it comes to these commons, uncommons. I'm going to try and center around the mechanic that supports it, because sometimes they can be pretty decent. Skyclave Apparition, 3 mana for a 2/2 Core Spirit. When it enters the battlefield, exile up to 1 target non-land, non-token permanent you don't control with converted mana cost 4 or less. When it leaves the battlefield, the exiled card's owner creates an XX blue illusion creature token where X is the converted mana cost. So this is actually pretty good. You can get rid of something, and then when this dies, it doesn't even come back. They just get a XX creature token. So not awful. Again, okay, so a lot of these cards haven't been fully revealed in English, so I'm not going to waste time by clicking on them and going over them. You can look them up on your own. So we got another one here. Whenever you cast instant sorcerer wizard spell, this gains flying until end of turn. And I'm not a big fan of this, obviously. I mean, just 5 mana for a 4/3. Not great. Sneaking Guide. Oh yeah, no, never mind. Oh, this is an interesting card. For a 3 mana 2/3, whenever it deals combat damage to a player, exile the top card of your library. You may play that card this turn. Kind of interesting, possibly. So here's one. This is a replacement for Plaguecrafter with a little less of a kick to it instead of like discarding a card if they don't have a creature. I believe that was the other case. When Demon's Disciple enters the battlefield, each player sacrifices a creature or planeswalker, and it's a 3/1 on its own. Kaza, Royal Chaser for a blue and a red, flying haste, 1/2. Next instant or sorcery spell you cast this turn costs X less to cast, where X is the number of wizards you control as this ability resolves. Not bad. Anti-Cognition. This is an interesting card. Counter target creature or planeswalker spell unless its controller pays 2. If an opponent has 8 or more cards in their graveyard, instead counter that spell and then you scry 2. So, I don't really, not a huge fan of this card, so. Alright, Brushfire Elemental, red and a green, 1/1 haste, can't be blocked by a creature with power 2 or less. Landfall, whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, it gets +2/+2 until end of turn. Not bad. Let's see. Rabid Bite is reprinted. Field Research for 3 mana, you draw 2 cards. If it was kicked, you draw 2 cards. If it's kicked, you draw 3. So if you pay 6, you can draw 3. Sorcery Speed, not that great. Let's see. Tormenting Voice is back. 2 mana. Yeah, we all know what that does. Ashaya, Soul of the Wind, 5 mana. Power and toughness equal to number of lands you control. Non-token creatures you control are forest lands in addition to their other types. So a pretty powerful card. Pretty powerful card. Of course, you know, as everybody's argument, it dies to removal. It's like, okay. Well, explain to me again how easy it is to have removal on hand in your back pocket whenever something like this hits the board. This is an interesting card. Core Blademaster, 2 mana for 1/1 double strike, and then equipped warriors you control have double strike. So they're really, that's another thing, they're pushing equipment in this one. Let's see. Akum Warrior. So, oh yeah, no, not that great. Return target card from your graveyard to your hand. 3 mana sorcery. Let's see. Sidereal Shelter. Target creature you control gains protection from the color of your choice to 1 turn. Just basically a weaker version of God's Mauling. So, yeah. Prowling Felidar. 4 mana, 2/3 Vigilance. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on Prowling Felidar, so that can be pretty powerful. Swarm Shambler, green mana, 0/0. Enters the battlefield with a +1 counter on it. Whenever a creature you control with a +1 counter on it becomes targeted with a spell or an opponent controls, create a 1/1 green insect creature token. You can pay 1, tap it, and put a counter on Swarm Shambler. Not awful. Let's see. Deadly Alliance. So a lot of these cards a lot of these cards, like I said, going with this party concept. This can be a 1 mana destroy target creature or planeswalker for party decks. So a lot of these equipment cards you're going to see, they're going to automatically attach to a creature you control when it enters the battlefield, and I think that's pretty crazy. It gets +1/+1 or +1/+0 for each creature card in your party. Again, party concept, and has menace on top of that. So all of these are like sorcery speed Embercleaves, and they all have some pretty good mechanics or abilities attached to them. So here's one that I was excited about. This card, everybody has been talking about Vampire Nighthawk and reprint Vampire Nighthawk, and that was actually one of my favorite cards. But Nighthawk Scavenger for 3 mana, you get a flying Death Touch lifelink, Vampire Nighthawk. Only difference is Nighthawk Scavenger's power is equal to 1 plus the number of card types among cards in your opponent's graveyard. This is a really cool card. It's going to see play in Mill. This can be a pretty formidable opponent here. Let's see. Here's another interesting card. Tobarak's Hope's Demise, 3 mana for a 2/2 flyer. Has lifelink as long as it has 5 or more +1 counters on it. Whenever another non-token creature you control dies, put a +1 counter on Tobarak's. If that creature was a cleric, you may draw a card, and if you do, lose 1 life. So minor interaction with tribal here, but it is pretty neat. Let's see. Maul of the Skyclaves, 3 mana. Equip it once it comes into play. Equip creature gets +2/+2, has flying and first strike. Pretty crazy. Let's see. The spell was kicked. Draw a card. When it enters the battlefield, the top 5 cards of your library. You may reveal a card with a kicker ability from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest of the bottom library in your order. It's all right. Wow, this video is going on for 42 minutes. That's insane. Roiling Vortex. This card I actually really like. 2 mana enchantment. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, it deals 1 damage to them. Whenever a player casts a spell, if no mana was spent to cast that spell, Roiling Vortex deals 5 damage to that player. And if you pay 1 red, your opponents can't gain life this turn. I really like it. I'm going to speed up a little bit. Soul Shatter, 3 mana. Each opponent sacrifices a creature or planeswalker with the highest converted mana cost among creatures and planeswalkers we control. This being an instant is really good. I love that. Amaria's Call. This card has caught my eye, and I'm still like really thinking this one over. So if you play the spell, it's 7 mana. Create 2 4/4 White Angel Warrior creature tokens with flying. Non-angel creatures you control gain indestructible until your next turn. This can be like a really good finisher at sorcery speed. And then, of course, if you played as a land, it enters the battlefield. You may pay 3 life. If you don't, it enters the battlefield tapped. So, if you really need the land early on in the game, you can pay 3. This card is interesting. I will highlight this one. This costs 3 less if you target a creature whose controller has 8 or more cards in their graveyard. Gain control of target creature with converted mana cost X. It's 3 blue, so that's the only downside. Let's see, Nissa's Zendikar, 4 mana for an enchant land. It's a 4/4 elemental creature with reach and haste. It's still a land. When the land dies, return that card to its owner's hand. Cleansing Wildfire, I like. Destroy target land. Its controller may search their library for a basic land card, and then you also draw a card. Mind Carver, 1 black. Equip it to a creature. Equip creature has +1/+0. It gets +3/+1 instead, as long as an opponent has 8 or more cards in their graveyard. Oh boy, trying to speed this up. I didn't want this video to be that long, but I really wanted to go through all of these so I can get caught up. Let's see, more party stuff here with Cascade Seer, Seagate Colossus, Sure-Footed Infiltrator. It's a rogue, 4 mana, 2/3. If you tap it on tap rogue, it can't be blocked. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. Let's see. Oh, Angel of Destiny is one I really like. 5 mana, 2/6 for a flying double strike. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you and that player each gain that much life. So you don't even need to play around lifelink. At the beginning of your end step, if you have at least 15 life more than your starting life total, each player Angel of Destiny attack this turn loses the game. This is crazy. And you pair that with the amount of life gain that you can play just with spells, and then the fact that also you can just play this with card. You don't even need to play around lifelink cards in general. So I think this can be really good. I mean, you pair this with Heliod's Intervention, Revitalize. There's a bunch of ways you can get up to 35 life. Of course, you need to survive and not lose too much life. Zagra's Thief of Heartbeats. So I'm not really sure how I feel about this. 6 mana for a 4/4. Of course, it costs 1 less to cast for each creature card in your party. Awesome. Around the party concept. Flying Death Touch Haste. Other creatures you control have Death Touch. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, destroy that, or to a planeswalker. I'm sorry, destroy that planeswalker. This card is pretty interesting. 2 mana. If the kicker was paid, so if you pay 5, you can choose any number of these. If not, you just choose one. Put 2+1/+1 counters on target creature. Target player gains X life, where X is the greatest power among creatures that player controls. Target creature you control fights target creature you don't control. So really, really cool. Let's see. Relic Robber. This is going to be a menace, in my opinion, in mono red. 3 mana for 2/2 haste. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, that player creates a 0/1 colorless goblin construct artifact creature with token with this creature can't block, and at the beginning of your upkeep, this creature deals 1 damage to you. So, interesting. Feed the Swarm. 2 mana. Destroy target creature or enchantment an opponent controls. You lose life equal to the permanent's converted mana cost. It's really cool that you see a black spell that's 2 mana that can either destroy a creature or an enchantment. It's very interesting. Let's see. Crawling Barrens. Oh, I actually hadn't seen these ones yet. Alright. Crawling Barrens. So it is a colorless land, and then if you tap 4, put 2+1/+1 counters on Crawling Barrens. Then you may have it become a 0/0 element or creature token until on a turn, still a land. So basically a souped up Mutavault that can just continue to get bigger and bigger. Archon of Emeria, 3 mana for 2/3 flying. Each player can't cast more than 1 spell each turn. Non-basic lands your opponents control enter the battlefield tapped. Really like this as a sideboard card, but it can also be a main deck as well. I really like this. Seagate Stormcaller, 2 mana for a 2/1. If you pay the 5 mana kicker. Okay, so when it enters the battlefield, copy the next entered sorcery spell with converted max 2 or less you cast this turn. When you cast it, if Seagate was kicked, copy that spell twice instead. You may choose new targets. So, anyway, wrap this incredibly long video up. I do apologize. So far, I'm not 100% sold on Zendikar. Obviously, I'll have to play it. Honestly, I was more excited for the core set 21 than I am with this one. I'm not sure how the party stuff is going to work. I'm not really sure about the equipment is strong. The equipment is very strong in this deck, or not deck, in this set. Obviously, there are a few cards that obviously with any standard set, there are some cards I like. There are a lot of cards I don't like. I also don't really care for the continuation of ramp abilities in this, but you know, what are you going to do? It seems to be the hyped up direction to continue to make this game as fast as humanly possible. Gone are the days of strategically outwitting your opponent in a moderately paced game. This is all about how much mana can you generate, how many creatures can you get on the board, how many different ways can you kill your opponent as quickly as possible. Again, obviously, there are a lot of decks throughout the history of Magic that are centered around that. look no further than mono red or mono white life gain. But it just seems like this is starting to spread across the entire color spectrum, and Magic is just continuing to get faster and faster. And hey, that's fine if that's the direction they want to go in. And we'll see how it works out. Again, I'm just not a big fan of the party concept. Again, it's just got a real Dungeons and Dragons feel to it, and I already know, obviously they've already announced they're going to be doing a set later on down the line involving Dungeons and Dragons, and it's just like, didn't you already do that with Legends? And basically all the creatures were people, mostly were cards that, like, the creatures that they created were like based off of D&D characters that people had created. I don't know. We'll see, of course, how it looks when it comes out, but I, for one, am allowed to have a judgment, and we'll see how it plays. I do like the flip concept for a lot of these land cards. Not terrible. We'll see how they play. We'll definitely see how they play. And yeah, that's about it. I'm kind of rambling at this point. Final verdict. So far, Zendikar Rising has been kind of meh. There's some cards that I'm excited for, but that's a short list, kind of going with the history of standards that's coming out. Short list compared to just a long list of stuff that I'm just like, I kind of don't really know what to say. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below, of course, what cards you're most looking forward to. And of course, don't forget to hit like and subscribe on the way out, and I will see you all later.